Yeah,
Yes,
for their
they
own
did,
use.
yeah.
When did that change occur?
Right after that old man died, the chief, big man. Then after that, they sell it for money.
We wasn't even born when Chief Big Knife died.
And in the wintertime, like she said about the old people, they have their own teepee. In the wintertime, the chief would tell the chief would tell the people, us Indians, we say, the chief, whatever they tell the people, we say that he tells his children, and everybody was his children because he was a chief, and we still say that. And he'd make them people to go out and get the wood for the old people. And when they make wood for themselves, and they'd have this pack horse and pack saddle to go out and cut their wood with the axe. Hardly any crosscut saw in them days. They chop up the wood and they load it on the horse and take it to their camp. And they'd go, when they have enough, they'd go out and cut some more for the old people. They deliver the wood for the old people for nothing.
Want to take a break, turn off these lights and let it cool down for a while?
Okay.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, well, he started it, Alec.
Go ahead.
Well, yes, it is that we say nowadays when white people say, well, there's powwow, I'm going over there and I'm going to see the Indians and see how they live and what they eat and all stuff like that. They do go, and there's a circle in during the powwow. I see right today in Arley, there's so many people that come there, and they just scatter throughout all over. You don't see beautiful circles. In the olden days when I was a kid, when I was just young, we'd go to Arley powwow. They'd make sure that each teepee, they'd come in circles, big circles, because there was many ways that they entertained themselves, you know, to other people, and they have to make rooms, and they go in the big circles, like they would drum, war dance like they do now. In the nighttime, they would do canvas dance. They grab a canvas and sticks, and they go around, and some different tribes call it 49. We call it canvas dance. And they'd go in the outside, the inside of the camps. They'd stop to each teepee. In front of the teepees, they would sing, you know, sing songs. There's just certain songs they sing, they call it canvas dance songs. They're just doing it to entertain people, you know, and at the same time, they're having fun. But that is just yesterday, I would say. They're just thinking about the olden days, the really olden days, when they did that. They were making their preparation. They'd take the same thing. They would take hides and sticks, sing, and they're making their preparation to go over and look for buffalo or whatever. And at times they would steal horses from their enemies across the mountain. And that's what they call canvas dance now. And us Indians, we call it hide tappings, because they tap on the hide, dry hides. In the olden days, now it's canvas. And now they're only doing it for, you know, good time, give some amusements and entertainments, you know, for the people, and their beautiful songs, and they make their way clear around the circle. It used to be big. Now it is, now they just scatter all throughout, maybe a few teepees here and there, and then the trailer camps and tents and what have you, you know, now. In Arley, that is. In my days, in my young days, I used to see it. We used to move over there, and they used to have celebration for 10 days, 10 whole days, and they never got tired of what they were doing. They'd continue, they'd keep up dancing, they'd canvas dance in the night, and then again they would wake people in the mornings by dancing, same thing, they'd circle around, and they have a certain song too for that song. They wake people up, morning song. And they'd throw your door open, your teepee door open, and if you don't want to get up then, they've got water they poured on you, make you get up. Say, it's morning, everybody's supposed to get up, do their little chores, and then let's start having our powwow again. And that was nice. It was Dave Lamou's dad that used to do that. And I hear they say he was a dog dancer, crazy dog dancer. No, that wasn't that. It was just waking people up, morning wakes. And that's why they used to have that. And then white people come there, and as he was saying, they look in, oh, that's a beautiful teepee, it's canvas. And it's shaped, of course, like a teepee. Look in, there's a frying pan, plates, and pots, and all the things that they cook with, utensils and stuff like that. But as we say, in the really olden days, the Indians, how they used to live, they didn't own anything in that sort of land, you know, things like that. There's a place up here, a little ways from Narada road going over the hill. It's a sort of a shortcut leaving Narada, going right over the hills, and you hit the road back in Marion. It's called Marion. There's a little store and it's a business section there where the trucks stop and all. And of course, beer garden, beer joints and bars, and the road used to go over. And just about before you get off the reservation, going over that road, we Kootenays call it where you mash the rocks. You pound them down to make it like powder. And that's why it's called, it's only certain kind of rock that's there that you could use to make your pottery. So they used to camp out there to make their cooking utensils, I would say, potteries. They'd get those rocks, and then right at that place, they'd pound it down to powdery-like. Then they come back to where there's mud clay from the lake, and they just mash it up together. And then there's certain kind of roots too that they put in all together, and then they shape it like a pot. And then they dry it, and when that dries, it's just like a cement, that you have cement like out here, the walk, sidewalk and all. That pot is there, that's their cooking pot. They cut up deer meat, they throw it in there and put boiling water. They can even place it in the bonfire, sort of like where there's nice red, charcoals, and it boils. That's one part of how they cook their meat. Outside of drying it, make a dry meat and stuff like that. And same thing they make plenty of those. And they go out and they get some barks from certain kind of a tree. They have an outfit that they make. There's a name for each one. They take the whole bark off so far up where they can bend it back, and then they sew it with the inside of, what do you call those peelings that you inside right along next to the bark. They kind of strip those off, and it's just like, I would say, wide string or whatever. And they use that to sew the packs. They make their picking packs. Even you have some, nowadays you go out and if you use up, you're camping out, you use up all your pots, regular pots now. And if you run out and if you want to stay a little longer, where will I put my huckleberries? I have no more pots, no more boxes. Well, what are you talking about? Go and get that bark and fix your own. It just takes not too long, and you've got a big one, about a 5-gallon, 3 gallons. You just sew them together, and here's your pot. You pour your huckleberries. Tied on the horses, long time ago, women folks used to ride horses. Tied on the sides, and it would get homesick. Then they would last. You can keep them over a year. When they dry up, they never crack, they don't cut, they don't tear, they don't break. And it's always there to use for the next year. But then the following year, you can always make a new one. There's many ways that the old timers, and as I was saying about sewing their clothes, no needle, no awl, no scissors, nothing. And they would tan their hides using rocks, and they'd scrape it with the deer ribs, that even maybe elk. It's strong and it's just hard. They make that. Now, the Indian women folks use the what do you call that? Sai. They cut it short and they sharpen it and they make that to take the grain off the buckskin, the deer hides. And that's the beginning, to start to tan a hide. In the olden days, they didn't have it. They used the deer rib or the elk rib, whatever, and it's sharp. They use that to start off and all. When they get done tanning, they even go as far as using the deer brains to mix your water with, and then started putting it into the last, and that brain makes the buckskin starting to getting soft. It sogs in, and it dries it, and you spread it out and do all through that, go through that. Then when you're done, you smoke them buckskins. Then you cut that, whatever you use, that sharp rock, you shape it into pair moccasins. When you get done, then you get your own homemade, all from a deer, wherever the part is, it's sharp. You sharpen it a little more on rocks. And then you have you got to always take the sinew from the deer. It comes from back here in the deer's, what do you call it? You take that and you get all the meat off, and there's your sinew. It's about this wide and it's so long. There's always 2 on each. You dry it, And that's what you use for thread to sew your moccasins and your leggings, your shirt, your women dresses. You just use the awl, you make a hole, and then you put your sinew in. That's how you sew it. You don't use thread, you don't use needle, you have no scissors. Can't help it, you don't have them in the olden days. You get your moccasins done, you get your shirt done, your leggings, your Indian women dresses. And there's your teepees already done. Takes, I forget what grandmother said, that how many elk buckskin took for one average size of a teepee. Quite a bit to make one teepee. But then again, when they get out in the woods, they build their own huts. Somehow they build a lodge and huts when they're gonna be living out there for their winter, year-round, winter months, and they'll have the teepees all right, but then they build their huts and they build their lodges by cutting all the little trees and you know how you make your huts. And then the lodges are oblong and make it warm, and they live there through the winter. Before they could get boards, and before when they first ones that I remember back there, when I first seen that I would call a house. Yes, they did get all them trees, you know, jack pines, I would say it is, you know, and they'd fix it like a log house and all, and they just use nothing but dirt for the top, you know, and it's warm. They put mud in between the logs, and that's their house. They started having houses. Moved from a teepee to that, you know. That's it.
I just wanted to check. I'm not in the picture, am I? Okay. About what time was that when you started to see the first things that you'd really call log houses in your...
Well, when I was a little girl, I'm 77, and I would say about 6 years old, and it was already there. Especially our log house was already been there, set up there when I was born. So it's over 77 years, yeah, when they started living in. And the villages it was across here, and they had them kind of homes already. They kind of slacked down using, they had teepees. They keep it handy when they go camping out, far out in the forest to start, you know, hunting. For their winter used to go camping out. They don't just go camp overnight. When they leave to go hunting, they stay away a whole month. Some of them month and a half. They'd be around Marion, Libby, all throughout. Certain families, maybe 2, 3, 4 homes, you know, families, 2, 3, 4 families would have about 5 teepees in them, a group. And all of them would go that way. Then they would start hunting. And there was no law to how many are you going to kill or go buy your permit because you're going hunting. And that's what he was talking about today. We was reading the Charalcusta that certain time of the year you can't kill this, you can't kill a doe, you can't kill a fawn or stuff like that. In that olden days, you get anything you want because Indians don't waste. They never waste. They go all through the whole thing. One deer means a lot to them. They're living on that, and that's all they ever do. They eat the marrows, they eat the ears, they cook the head, they take the brains to tan hides with, and there is nothing left. The whole deer is eaten up, you know. There's no waste. They you know, they say, you know, they have to, because that's the only thing they have.
Alec, is there anything that you'd like to add to what Adeline's been saying that way?
Yeah, that cooking pot she was talking about, someone would have a great big one and cut their meat, put it in there. And the way they boil their meat is make a fire and heat up some rocks. When they're good and red, they put it in that pot with the meat and water. They put that hot rock in there, 2 or 3 rocks. When they cool off, they take it out, put new ones in there. They keep changing it around till it boils. Then they have their boiling meat that way. And they drink the broth. And you would imagine how it looked after they put rocks in there and out, and it would be dirty. And they drink that broth. Nowadays, white people would say, don't drink that, it's poison. You got it all dirty, then you drink in the broth. But the old people, they drink that broth, eat the meat, and they get to be over 100 years old. Nothing happens to them.
What he's talking about, what I was talking about, grinding the rocks and make a pottery out of that, and you could put it in the fire and it would not break. But what he's talking about is a different way you make the pot, that you only put the red rocks in there to boil.
Yeah, there's different kind of
there's 2 different
kind of roots that they take, that they weave it,
They
and they
weave
made
it.
it